Good morning, evening, or night, wherever you are. Welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Sunday, 15th June, 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. Israel and Iran's escalating tensions have significantly impacted global markets and geopolitical stability. The conflict involves missile attacks and Israeli strikes on Iranian energy infrastructure, including natural gas processing facilities and an oil depot near Tehran. These attacks have led to a surge in oil prices, with Brent crude oil futures rising to $74.84 a barrel, and US West Texas Intermediate crude futures gaining to $73.70. Analysts fear a broader supply shock, particularly if the Strait of Hormuz is affected, potentially exceeding the Ukraine-Russia war's impact. Gold prices also reached record highs as investors sought safe haven assets. Stock markets initially showed little movement, but analysts anticipate persistent weak market sentiment. Amidst global uncertainty, leaders of the world's major economic powers convened in the Canadian Rockies for a Group of 7 G7 summit. The summit's agenda was significantly influenced by the escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. Unresolved trade disputes involving then U.S. President Donald Trump also cast a shadow over the discussions. India's stock market is currently navigating a period of volatility influenced by geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, increasing crude oil prices, and impending policy announcements from the U.S. Federal Reserve, leading experts to advise careful trading strategies. Despite these challenges, GIFT Nifty signals a potentially positive opening for Indian benchmark indices, trading at a premium relative to Nifty futures' previous closing, fluctuating between roughly 45 and 65 points. Crude oil prices nearing $75 for Brent and $74 for WE due to Middle Eastern instability are significantly impacting Indian debt and the rupee's value. The rise in crude oil prices could potentially boost the earnings of companies like ONGC and Oil India by up to 2% for each dollar increase, while also posing a broader risk to Indian stocks in general. Oil India shares have already seen a nearly 3% increase. Tata Motors shares experienced a decline of over 5% due to anticipated lower 526 EBIT margins of 5% to 7% for Jaguar Land Rover JLR, falling short of the initial target of 10% due to tariffs imposed by the U.S. Blue Cloud Softec Solutions shares saw an increase of almost 2% as the company plans to convert IAS Anywhere into a subsidiary and issue 31.68 million equity shares through a share swap, subject to shareholder approval. Tata Technologies, LKP Securities, and Honeywell Automation India will trade ex-date for final and special dividends. The Nifty's key support level is observed at 24,450. The government is optimistic about an oil boom in the Andaman Sea, drawing parallels to Guyana, with ONGC carrying out unprecedented drilling operations. Prime Minister Modi has affirmed that India is progressing towards becoming the world's third-largest economy in the near future. Deepening international relations, India and Cyprus are working to boost economic cooperation, including the possibility of dual stock listings. The National Stock Exchange, NSA, of India and the Cyprus Stock Exchange have formalized their intent through a memorandum of understanding designed to stimulate cross-border investments between the two countries. An investor from Cyprus has lauded India as a highly skilled investment destination, which coincides with Prime Minister Modi's visit. Discussions are currently in progress regarding the potential integration of UPI, Unified Payments Interface, systems between India and Cyprus. President Trump's return to the G7 summit highlighted growing divisions with allies. He previously advocated for Russia's inclusion, He now pushes for reduced U.S. military deployment abroad, while simultaneously escalating trade disputes. The White House has an early July deadline to finalize trade agreements amidst these global tensions. Turning to Russia, its unique relationship with both Israel and Iran positions it as a potential mediator in the Middle East's complex conflict. Prabowo Subianto, the president-elect of Indonesia, chose to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia instead of attending the 7th summit. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine continues with prisoner exchanges and the repatriation of war dead. Russia returned 1,200 bodies of Ukrainian soldiers. No Russian war dead were returned in the exchange. A Russian airstrike deliberately targeted Boeing offices in Kyiv, which the Financial Times described as a targeted attack on a U.S. business. Allegations have surfaced accusing Russia of systematically persecuting Ukrainian Christians. President Putin has communicated to President Trump Russia's willingness to restart peace talks with Ukraine. Despite facing Western sanctions, Russia has experienced a surge in export revenue, according to a report from the German Economic Institute. Russia is also accused of employing Bitcoin to pay teenage spies, an activity uncovered through blockchain forensics. Russia has withdrawn its citizens from Iran and suspended operations at its consulate in Tehran. China's economic landscape in May revealed a combination of progress and challenges. Retail sales saw a surge, marking the most rapid expansion since December 2023, fueled by government subsidies designed to stimulate consumer spending. Simultaneously, industrial output growth decelerated to 5.8% compared to the previous year, a decrease from 6.1% recorded the prior month. Amidst these shifts, thermal power generation experienced its first increase of the year. China is currently assessing the implications of data limitations imposed by the United States, a consequence of budget reductions enacted during the Trump administration. In the financial sector, China has authorized companies listed on the Hong Kong Exchange, HKEX, within the Greater Bay Area, GBA, to pursue listings on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange. Both China and the United States are actively engaged in advancing brain implant technology, with China commencing clinical trials in this field. Jamie Dimon recently shared his perspective, suggesting that internal issues within the U.S. pose a greater threat to America than China itself. Hong Kong's stock market experienced volatility, influenced by the release of China's mixed economic data. Further impacting the financial landscape, China has approved a measure allowing companies listed on the HKX and located in the GBA to also list on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, SC. Nigeria, through the NGX Group, and the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, is actively working to reinforce its relationship with China. The objective is to attract cross-border capital market investments and to enhance financial links between the two nations. Russia's economic ties with China are becoming increasingly robust, surpassing the level of collaboration that Washington currently perceives. Saudi Arabia's stock market saw a decrease, with the Tadawul All-Share Index falling by 1.01% to 10,1731. 0.59, translating to a 40 billion rial loss in market value. Meanwhile, PEMO announced reaching 200 customers within Saudi Arabia. Economically, Al Marai is poised to acquire pure beverages industry company for $277. Saudi Arabia's inflation rate held steady at 2.2% in May. Madinat Nasser and Wahid signed a memorandum of understanding to support strategic expansion in Saudi Arabia, while Multi-Business Group secured a public works engineering deal. OpenAI has reportedly explored fundraising opportunities with Saudi Arabian and Indian investors. Saudi Arabia alongside Qatar, has initiated financial aid to Syria. In legal news, a journalist was executed in Saudi Arabia after 7 years of imprisonment, sparking claims from activists that the execution was linked to the journalist's social media activity. Global financial markets remain sensitive to geopolitical events, with the dollar holding steady amid Middle East tensions and anticipation of central bank decisions. Gold experienced a surge, reaching its highest price in nearly 2 months as investors sought safe haven assets. In the United Kingdom, Blaise Maitrelli made history as the first woman appointed to lead MI6, the nation's esteemed intelligence service. Meanwhile, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is facing increasing pressure to uphold her commitment to avoid further tax hikes, indicating potential fiscal challenges for the government. The ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia saw Ukraine recover 12,200 bodies of fallen soldiers from Russian territory. British Defense Intelligence reports indicate that over 6,000 North Korean soldiers have been killed or wounded while fighting alongside Russian forces. Recent military actions involve Ukrainian forces striking a Russian drone production facility, while Moscow targeted Boeing's offices located in Ukraine. President Zelensky reported that Ukrainian troops are slowly reclaiming territory within the Sumy region. Japan's financial sector is bracing for market volatility, particularly in its bond markets. The Nikkei stock average is experiencing gains, driven by a weaker yen that is advantageous for export-oriented businesses. SMFG and SPI are collaborating to introduce a new wealth management venture within Japan. Hong Kong activist Oasis is urging foreign investment funds to engage more actively in voting within Japanese firms. This push for greater shareholder participation is seen as a positive step for the Japan Stock Exchange. Public opinion polls suggest a resurgence in support for Shigeru Ishiba. Prime Minister Ishiba is scheduled to participate in the G7 summit, where he plans to discuss auto tariffs with President Trump. Japan's national sport is experiencing changes as younger generations take the lead. Saiji Ota is commemorating 30 years of fostering stronger ties between Japan and India, connecting Tokyo and Delhi. The popular group Le Seraphim has announced their debut performance at the Tokyo Dome after a successful tour in Japan. The escalating conflict between Iran and Israel is injecting considerable volatility into global markets, especially concerning oil. Baker Hughes CEO Lorenzo Simonelli advises against forecasting oil prices given the current instability. Israel's strikes reportedly targeting Iranian nuclear facilities have intensified tensions. Details surrounding the impact on these facilities remain limited. Saudi Arabia had previously increased its oil production, anticipating potential disruptions. Turning to India, the Gift Nifty suggests a positive opening for the Sensex and Nifty. Asian markets are displaying a mixed performance amidst the ongoing conflict. Oil prices are holding above $75 per barrel. Meanwhile, in Australia, the Australian Securities Exchange, ASX uranium sector, is under scrutiny. This is due to the potential impact on Iran's nuclear capabilities resulting from the Israeli strike. The Iranian regime is purportedly facing an existential moment of truth as the strikes intensify. Some observers speculate about possible deal-making strategies emerging in response to the conflict. Taiwan has blacklisted China's Hawaiian SMIC, placing them on an export control list due to national security concerns amid escalating tensions with Beijing. This decision aligns Taiwan's trade policy more closely with the United States. In other news, AsiaLink secured a $120 million credit line from Taiwan's mega ICBC. This market segment report indicates that Taiwan's non-life insurance premiums continue to rise, reflecting improvements in underwriting practices. South Korea is experiencing significant developments across technology, legal sectors, and economic trends. Scare Group and Amazon Web Services are collaborating to construct South Korea's largest AI data center, a multi-billion-dollar project aimed at bolstering the nation's technological infrastructure. In the legal sector, Crude and Partners has formed a strategic alliance with Jipyong LLC, enhancing their combined legal service capabilities. Skylo is expanding its satellite services in South Korea through partnerships with local telecommunications companies, broadening connectivity options. Economically, ASEAN has emerged as a crucial export market for South Korea, particularly amidst ongoing global trade tensions. The nation's money supply has increased by 8.1 trillion won, primarily driven by rising deposits, reflecting shifts in financial behavior. Further, a tourism professor has proposed the establishment of a new regulatory body to monitor and manage the activities of South Koreans gambling abroad, addressing potential social and economic impacts. Australia is seeing significant economic activity, with ANOC launching an $18.70 to $19 billion takeover bid for Santos, boosting the energy sector. Simultaneously, Amazon will invest $13 billion in data defense infrastructure in the country. Further diversifying the market, BlackRock has introduced a factor-based active ETF, ASX-EACT, focused on the U.S. market. Adding to the international investment landscape, the Yorkshire-based Animal Care Group has acquired a stake in an Australian company. In regulatory news, the Australian Securities Regulator has begun an inquiry into the ACE. Asian stocks are gaining traction due to appealing valuations, with the effects of China's sluggish growth and rising interest rates beginning to wane, according to Overlook Investments. Mixed trading characterized Asian shares as oil prices climbed amidst heightened tensions between Israel and Iran. In South Korea, voters chose a new leader amidst the backdrop of stringent steel and aluminum tariffs imposed by the United States. Canada is hosting the G7 summit, with tariffs, wildfires, and artificial intelligence topping the agenda amid global tension. The summit's importance is amplified by the ongoing Middle East conflict and persistent trade disagreements. In a move towards strengthened trade relations, Canada has also agreed to ratify Britain's entry into a significant Trans-Pacific trade agreement. Chrystia Freeland, Canada's Minister of Finance, plans to emphasize the country's economy-focused approach to foreign policy during the G7 discussion. Nigeria's Dangote refinery is extending credit opportunities to marketers, a move designed to ease distribution. Simultaneously, the NGX Group is partnering with the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, to enhance financial cooperation between Nigeria and China. Their joint initiative focuses on leveraging capital market diplomacy to fortify economic bonds. DB's Hong Kong is significantly bolstering its wealth management division. The expansion includes hiring 100 additional bankers and inaugurating a new wealth center. This strategic initiative seeks to leverage the growing wealth management market. Affluent clients, according to Ajay Mathur, head of DBS Hong Kong's consumer banking group, have remained largely unconcerned by market volatility related to US-China trade tensions. European markets faced headwinds as rising tensions between Israel and Iran triggered weekly losses in equities. This occurred even as UBS recommended investments in European quality stocks, with investor caution adding to the market's negative sentiment. Finally, France's CAC 40 is showing weakness, suggesting a potential disconnect from the narrative that the Federal Reserve is artificially inflating markets. In Spain, short-term rentals are exacerbating the housing crisis, as investor demand drives up prices and harms local residents. Middle East. The Middle East felt the impact of escalating tensions between Israel and Iran, which negatively affected stock markets across the region. Egypt. Egypt is emerging as a destination for Chinese factories looking to relocate amid the ongoing trade war. However, Egypt also experienced significant stock losses in the Middle East region amidst strikes and escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. South Africa. South African assets have declined, ending a period of gains after foreign investors withdrew $3.70 billion from the country's stock market. Argentina. Argentina's President Javier Milei is encouraging citizens to deposit an estimated $271 billion in cash holdings into banks. He hopes this will demonstrate confidence in the nation's economic recovery. Brazil. Brazil's economy has a significant component in Volkswagen, but the company's history in the country includes decades of human rights abuses and exploitation. Adding to economic considerations, the controversial return of Brazil's billionaire beef barons is also noteworthy. Malaysia. Malaysia's state-owned oil and gas company, Petronas, is seeking international opportunities to reduce production costs. South Korea. South Korea faces high consumer costs, with the second highest food prices among OECD countries, second only to Switzerland. Indonesia. The Indonesian Stock Exchange is considering extending its trading window by 1 hour, potentially increasing trading volume and market activity. Peru. Peru's economic growth has not met expectations, primarily due to contractions in the fishing and farming sectors. Ireland. Ireland is experiencing a decline in Tesla sales, with the Elon effect cited as a factor contributing to the company's decreasing market share. United States. In the United States, Leonard A. Lauder, known for expanding the Estee Lauder companies and his philanthropy and art patronage, passed away at the age of 92. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.